Hello, Sydney. We still don't have audio description. Welcome back. In case you didn't guess which movie this is going to be a review of by seeing the title and that beginning, this is me taking a second or 27th look at Scream 2. I'm doing this because the Scream movie will eventually hit Paramount Plus, so I'm trying to make my way through the Scream franchise before it does. I think I got enough time before Scream 6 hits Paramount Plus. I'm gonna rewatch all the other Screams and see where I'm at with it. I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser. Things changed. One thing that hasn't changed is that Paramount Plus still doesn't have audio description on this franchise, which seems bizarre to me because I kind of feel like when you're releasing sequels to something, that kind of creates an interest in going back and re-adding stuff to the original films. They don't, I don't know that they fully, I don't know how it worked out for them. They have the rights, obviously, to make the sequels, but they did not originally have the rights to the original trilogy. I can't remember who has Scream 4, but I would say at least the trilogy was Miramax and Dimension Films. So I don't know where the rights stand, but I would think you could provide accessibility, because that's all this is. Audio description is just accessibility. It's like providing a closed captioning track. So I don't really give them a pass on it. And if they're going to be hosting the Scream movies a lot because they have the sequels, then it behooves them to make audio description that they're just choosing to not make. This is a choice. So the assholes at Paramount Plus have chosen to make sure that if anybody wanted to go back and try to jump into the Scream franchise, like let's say you happen to be born a little bit after and you're like 20 now, you want to start watching the Scream franchise and you happen to be blind and visually impaired, fuck you. That's what they're saying. They're like, fuck you. Luckily I already reviewed Scream. I've seen that. I saw that many times visually, and I'd actually listened to it at least once since then. Same thing with Scream 2. I think I listened to it also once. That one has a bigger question mark for me. I think I've listened to the sequel. But I've definitely seen the movie many times. Saw it in theaters. That was a big plus for me. And yeah, so I have thoughts, but one of them definitely at the top has to be the fact that, man, this movie's a bitch without audio description, and it's not as fun without audio description. There are several scenes that just don't work. There's Dewey's scene where he gets stabbed. Doesn't even make sense without audio description. You don't even understand what's going on. It's just, I mean, not only is it just kind of resulting into the score, but you don't even understand it. I was like, I think this is the Dewey scene, and then you just kind of get Gail's reaction to it, and not much else. That's kind of it. It's so shitty. It's because she's in a sound booth, and he can't hear her, and that's part of the thing. So you can't hear. They can't hear each other, and that sound differential is what creates the problem of allowing Ghostface to sneak up on Dewey. Is that Gail can't warn him about the thing. Anyway, so there's that. I was reminded most of the kills, you don't really know how people die. Omar Epps, you don't really get that. You would have no idea how he dies in this. Um, at least when Jada dies, you get a little bit of an idea. You can have, because she has like a little bit of conversation about it before getting stabbed. There's like some, and you can tell she's in the theater, but you still don't really know. It's, who else was it? Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. While it's fun to play around with it, I don't know that I picked up on the fact that she runs upstairs and is thrown from the second story, and that's part of it. So, you know, she plays on that trope of why do they always run upstairs? They make it harder for them to get outside of the house. And then just analyzing the characters, analyzing the movie. I love Scream movies. I do. Timothy Olyphant's character, just like when I rewatched the first Scream, and I've seen it 1,000 times, I was really honed in on Mickey is such an obvious killer. We don't need another Randy. Like, and he plays it, he's so intense in this film. And he doesn't really do anything that would take him out of the running. You know, there's nothing about him that makes him feel like it's not me. And I think about the casting of Laurie Metcalf in that role, and I'm thinking like back in that day, it would have been weird to see somebody like her popping up without her dying. So I think the fact that we haven't seen her die is really interesting, because it would make sense if she was a character that was following Courtney Cox's character around, was like a super fan, and then she gets killed off. But at a certain point, you assume somehow she's involved because she's not dead. Like, we get sort of to the final moment, and you're like, wait a minute, Laurie Metcalf hasn't died. What could they possibly be doing with her character? And then the answer comes, and you're like, oh, it's actually a great reveal. It's one of the better things about the film, is who she is and why she's there. Definitely. But there are things about this film that are just like, oh my God. Like, I don't know if I'm just getting old, but there were some times where I was just like, fuck this movie. One of them is Sydney straight up gets her friend killed. I mean, like, not even kidding. There's definitely an alternate version of this film where her friend, I forget her name, they added diversity. They were like, wait a minute, everybody in the first cast was white. So they just, they made sure that the opening kills were black. Suddenly Courtney Cox has a black cameraman. Sydney's best friend is black. It's just, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's kind of noticeable. It's a little bit like, it feels like they're making up for something. It feels like that they felt bad about the first film. Like, somebody called them out on it, and they were like, we're gonna make sure we're gonna fix it for the sequel. But I mean, she was doing everything right, and she was the one that wanted to leave. And Sydney's like, no, I have to go back to the car. And then she's like, oh, he's not in the car. And lo and behold, the friend dies. The friend that didn't want to go back to the car. The friend that was like, this is how people die. And she was right. This is how people die. Sydney just got you killed. So, very unfortunate. I think she easily could have survived, and it would have been interesting to see someone from the sequel survive into the third film. So since everyone else dies and they carry no new characters over, um, I think that might have been something. If I could go back and tell the writers' room, I'd be like, leave her alone. Please let her make the sequel. She's a decent character. Even though I can't remember her name right now, but to be fair, I also can't remember Jerry O'Connell's name. So the fact that I remembered Mickey just has more to do with the fact that he's the killer of the film. Couldn't remember Sarah Michelle Gellar's, and I just watched these films. So, yeah, no idea. No idea what it is. Of course, rest in peace, Randy, which was shocking at the time. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, not Randy. He's like my favorite character in this film. But you can feel it because it feels like it's building towards something, because the score is growing, and the intensity of his speech is growing, but he's in broad daylight, and I think that's what surprises everybody about the kill, is that you don't expect that van to just pop open and Ghostface to just abduct him, like he's some sort of child molester. just is just that's what was surprising. But yeah, Randy, rest in peace. Probably still the most surprising death in the Scream franchise. I mean, Dewey's like hobbling along. There's only just so many times you can stab Dewey. At a certain point, there's only just so much that Dewey can survive. He's stabbed in like every movie. He's been to the hospital so many times. So, yeah, it's probably is still the most surprising death. But those are my thoughts, I guess. Connor's a dick. Cotton's a dick. The fight in the library is a bit much. I get what he's trying to do, but he doesn't realize how they really try to like lay it on thick that Cotton came out and he's the killer. Like he could be the killer. Maybe it really is Cotton this time. So they have him like having these like mood swings that are just so weird that he doesn't see a problem with him. And then his like ultimatum to Sydney at the end, kind of like, if you don't do the interview, I'm probably gonna let her kill you. So I don't know what makes him the hero. I just feel like that's kind of like I feel like he's basically doing the equivalent of, I'll save your life if you date me. It's like, what? Gross. So, any sort of heroism that could have come out of Cotton's surprise appearance at the end is just, it's taken away by that whole dialogue that they give him where he's like, bet that interview's looking real good right now. But that is, he's looking real good right now, Sydney. And she's like, consider it done. And I know that's supposed to be like an epic moment in the film, but he literally just like put her life on the line for a Diane Sawyer interview. I mean, what? And this is the hero of the film. That's who it is. Sam, he did it. He's the hero. Oh God. So I think I'm like starting to not like Scream 2 as much. It definitely needs audio description, just for other people who haven't seen it before. But I was going through it, and just some of the dialogue and stuff nowadays. It's just, I look back on it and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening with this movie? Yeah, and I think it might actually be hampering my ability to enjoy Scream 2 slightly, which was always regarded as being a actually solid horror sequel, even though they make a big statement about how there aren't any good horror sequels. And the only one that they can think of is Aliens. It's just, I love that there's pushback on that too in a film class. Like they're like, well, there's no accounting for good taste. You know, like what does that even mean? Most people agree that Aliens is a good film. Um, Weird. It's a weird statement to make. So, this was a fun trip down memory lane, but it also kind of made me, when I actually was sitting down trying to pay attention to what am I going to say about this film in a movie review, instead of passively just sort of putting it on and just being like, let something absorb. Then I was like, I have to actually say something about this film now. And I can't help but not notice a couple things that just didn't sit right with me. So, I'm going to give Scream 2 an A-. This is a film that I've watched far too many times to not, say that it's up there. But I am starting to see that the Emperor might be missing some of his clothes. There are a couple moments in this where I'm just like, I don't think that was written the best way. That kind of makes somebody look bad. That makes, oh god, that is totally Sydney's fault. Like 100%. That's on her. I mean, technically it's on the killer, but it's very much on Sydney. I mean, the girl literally says, if you go back, this is how people die. And then she's the one that dies. So, Sydney was warned. Anyway, that's Scream 2. Moving on to Scream 3. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'm sure Paramount is clearly, they're listening to my videos and they're going to get some audio description on the Scream 3 before I watch it. I feel that. Obviously, it's going to happen. Nope. They still don't have audio description for the Showtime series that they imported in September that have existing audio description. If you wanted to try to watch season 1 of Yellow Jackets, good fucking luck. And it's an existing audio description track, and Paramount Plus just gives zero fucks. They just go jerk off in a closet instead. I don't know. If I ever meet certain people, we're not going to have fun. I'm not going to have fun with, if somebody's like, I work for Paramount Plus. I'm going to be like, we need to have a long conversation. You're never leaving this room. until you commit to audio description. Yeah, it's really obnoxious. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will review more Scream movies for you. In the meantime, you can go to my website, macmovieguy.com. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. And you can see what has audio description where you can watch it. You can go to the ADNA.org, which tells you who's working on the narration for films and television series. And you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at MacTheMovieGuy. That's it. That's all I got. So I'll see you on the other side.